Long ago, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a lovely young princess named Snow White. Her stepmother, the queen, was cruel and vain. She hated anyone whose beauty rivaled her own, and she watched her stepdaughter with angry, jealous eyes. The queen had magic powers and owned a wondrous mirror that spoke. Every day she stood before it and asked, Magic. Magic mirror.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one of all?
And every day the mirror answered,
You are the fairest one of all, O Queen, the fairest our eyes have ever seen.
As time passed, Snow White grew more and more beautiful, and the queen grew more and more envious. She forced the princess to work from dawn till dusk.
You missed a spot. Now go get me a drink of water. I'm parched.
Despite all the hard work, Snow White stayed sweet, gentle, and cheerful. Day after day, she washed and swept and scrubbed. And day after day, she dreamed of a handsome prince who would come and carry her off to his castle.
Someday my prince will come.
One day, when the queen spoke to her mirror, it replied with the news she had been dreading.
I'm sorry to tell you this, Queen, but Snow White is even more prettier than you now. She is the fairest in the land.
That can't be true! We must get rid of her!
The queen sent for her huntsman.
Take Snow White deep into the forest, and then, my faithful huntsman, you will kill her.
Don't make me harm Snow White.
Silence! You know the penalty if you fail.
The next day, Snow White, never suspecting that she was in danger, went off with the huntsman. As they were deep in the woods, the huntsman drew his knife, then suddenly fell to his knees.
I can't do it. Forgive me. The queen has made me do this. The queen? She's jealous of you. She'll stop at nothing. Quick, run. Run away. I'll lie to the queen.
Frightened now, Snow White fled through the woods. Branches tore at her clothes. Sharp twigs scratched her arms and legs. Strange eyes stared from the shadows. Danger lurked everywhere. Snow White ran on and on. At last, Snow White fell wearily to the ground and began to weep. Eventually, she found her way to a small cottage.
Oh, it's adorable, just like a doll's house.
But inside, a small village. The little tables and chairs were covered with dust, and the sink was filled with dirty dishes.
Oh, perhaps the children who live here are orphans and need someone to take care of them. Maybe they'll let me stay and keep house for them.
Snow White started cleaning, and soon the place was neat and tidy. Meanwhile, the dwarfs who lived in the cottage were heading home from the mine where they worked. The dwarfs were amazed to find their house so clean. They were even more amazed when they went upstairs and saw Snow White.
It's a girl. She's beautiful.
She's gonna be trouble. Mark my words.
Why is she sleeping in my bed?
Snow White woke with a start and saw the dwarfs gathered around her.
Oh, why you're not children, you're little men. I read your names on the bed. You're bashful, you're dull, you're happy, you're grumpy, and you're dopey.
When Snow White told the dwarfs about the queen's plan to kill her, they decided that she should stay with them.
Please stay with us. Dopey, Snow White.
We're asking for trouble.
But we can't let her get caught by the wicked queen, queen. Wicked queen, not wicked queen.
That night, after supper, they all sang and danced and made merry music. Snow White loved her new friends, and she felt safe at last. Meanwhile, the queen had learned from her mirror, that Snow White was still alive. So you're gonna
I'm sorry to tell you this, Queen, but Snow White is still alive.
What? Inconceivable!
With a magic spell, she can turn herself into an old peddler woman. She filled a basket with pears, putting a poisoned pear on top.
One bite and Snow White will sleep forever. Then I'll be the fairest in the land.
The next morning, before they left for the mine, the dwarfs warned Snow White to be on her guard.
Don't let nobody or nothing in this house.
Oh, Grumpy, you do care. I'll be careful, I promise.
She waved goodbye, and the dwarfs went cheerfully off to work.
Hi-ho!
Hi-ho!
And off to work we go.
A few minutes later, the queen came to the cottage.
Making cobbler, dearie. It's pears the men love. Here, try one of these.
Oh, this pear looks delicious. I'm sure one bite won't hurt me.
Snow White had remembered the dwarf's warning, but the woman looked harmless and the pear looked delicious. Snow White bit the pear. Then with a sigh, she fell to the floor. Told by the birds and animals that something was wrong, the dwarfs raced back to the cottage. They saw the queen sneaking off and they followed her. As storm clouds gathered and rain began to fall, the dwarfs chased the queen to the top of a high rocky mountain. Crack! There was a flash of lightning, and the evil queen fell to her doom below.
Oh no! I'm falling!
But it was too late for Snow White. She was so beautiful, even in death. The dwarfs could not bear to part with her. Day and night they kept watch over their beloved princess. One day, a handsome prince came riding through the forest. As soon as he saw Snow White, he fell in love with her. Kneeling by her side, he took her hand. Snow White sat up, blinked, and smiled. The prince had broken the evil spell. As the dwarfs danced with joy, the prince took Snow White off to his castle, where they lived happily ever after.